You may recall from Module 4, when we set up API authentication, that we gave each user a role, either the admin role or just a regular user role. Then we protected certain endpoints so they couldn't be accessed by particular user types. For example, a regular user can't edit an item. Well, ViewAuth also allows us to protect parts of our client app based on the user role. To utilize the role, we first need to indicate to ViewAuth which role each user is. Now, hopefully you saw a few videos back that the role property in our API response got added to the ViewAuth user object. So for example, in the login form, after we logged in, we passed the user data that we retrieved from the response into this auth user method down here. So that's half of what we need to do. The other half of what we need to do is go into our ViewAuth config and tell ViewAuth which property of the user that it can test to determine which role the user is. So we're going to add a property roles var to the config, and we're going to assign to it the string role. So now it knows to check for the property role on the user. One thing we can use the role property for is to protect routes based on role. So for example, we only want regular logged in users to be able to access the cart page. We don't want guests or admin to be able to access the cart page. But currently, if you're a guest or an admin, like right now, I'm not signed in, then I can access the shopping cart page just fine. So in order to change this, let's go to our router file now. And here you'll see our configuration for our cart view. And what we can do is we can add an extra property to this config, which is meta, and we can assign an object to that. Now I can add another property, auth, and assign array to that. And then in that array, I can list the users that are allowed to access that route. So in this case, I'm just going to put the regular user role in there like that. So what's going to happen now is that when we attempt to access this route, ViewAuth is going to step in and it's going to check the current user's role against this role. And if it matches, then they're able to access the route. And if it doesn't, then they're going to be denied access to that. Coming over to the browser now to test that feature out. So firstly, make sure that you're logged out, and you can do that by clearing local storage, which is going to clear the auth token, and then refreshing the page. Once you're logged out, if you now try to access the cart page, you'll find that you just get automatically redirected to the login page. So let's go ahead now and protect some more of the routes in our application. So for the login and register pages, we don't want a logged in user to be able to access these. If they want to go to these pages, then they need to log out first. So once again, we'll add a meta property, assign an object, give that an auth property. And this time, instead of assigning an array to this, I'm just going to set this to false. And what this does is it tells ViewRouter that any authenticated user of any type, whether it's an admin or a regular user role, should be denied access to this page. So this is the login route. I'm going to copy exactly the same config for the register route. Finally, we need to protect the admin pages to ensure only logged in admin accounts can access these. So you'll see this one here is the sell page. You haven't seen that yet, but we'll be covering it in the next few videos. And this is where an admin can create or update an existing item. So we want to protect that page and make it so that only admin users can access it. So we're going to add the auth property, and this time we'll assign an array again, and we're going to put in the role admin for that one. So now I'm going to copy that. I'm also going to put it on the profile page, which is another admin page, and also down here on the item edit page, which again is another admin page. The role property has another very handy use in our client app. We can use it to adapt the UI. For example, on the item page, we have this add to cart button here. Well, we've just made it so that the admin user doesn't have access to the cart page, and therefore they shouldn't be able to add any items to the cart and therefore we don't need this button. So let's make it so that this button will only appear if the user is a guest or if they're logged in as a regular user. So to do this, we're going to add a VIF to the button. So this is the item view here, and you'll see the button right here, add to cart. So I'm going to add a VIF to that. Now we're going to use the global $auth check API method. And we're going to pass in a string to this, which is admin. So as you can probably guess, this here, check, is going to return true or false based on whether the authenticated user's role matches the role that's been passed in as a string. So to make this work, we'll also need to add a bang to the front of this expression, since we want to show this button so long as the user is not an admin. So you'll see in the navigation bar that we have this shopping cart icon up here, and this is actually a link to the cart page. So once again, we want to hide this cart icon in the nav bar unless the user is a regular logged in user or a guest. So what we're going to do is come to the sticky nav component now, and that's where this icon is rendered. So if we come down here to, here it is, here's the V button, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to add a VIF. We're going to say, if not, auth check admin, like that. Coming over to the browser now, since I'm currently a guest user, I'm not logged in, we can see the button and we can see the icon just as normal. If I go in now and log in as the admin user, so admin@test.com, if we now go back to the same page, you'll see that the add to cart button is now hidden, as is the cart icon.